Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 57 of the Brighter Horizons podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about building inner strength without self-criticism, also known as self-compassion. It's a huge part about this channel. It's a huge part about our lives. And without it, we would not be the people we are today. And I think that in modern media, it's something that many people forget. So you got to love yourself, man. But there's a lot to it. It's a very deep topic. We're going to talk about how it's going to change your life. So hopefully you learn a lot from this episode. By the end of it, you'll be a better person. Now, without further ado, let's get right into it. Good sir, how's your week been?
Honestly, pretty exciting. We got a couple things coming up, but in due time, you guys will find out about that.
Oh, the lore's about to be crazy.
Next episode, there will be some interesting topics that are brought up, but some events that I think will be very exciting to talk about. But in due time. I think the one thing, coming back around to the topic, I think it's a very debatable thing, right? The idea of moving forward without self-criticism, I think that there's a lot to both elements of it.
We're dying already.
Apologies. But there's a lot to either side of it. There are people that believe that the only way to move forward is by being extremely harsh and critical of themselves. But I think there's a golden ratio there that needs to be found, but I think a lot of people miss that, especially as you said. In today's modern media, it gets dulled out, which is stuff we'll talk about further. But I know this started with how was my week. My week was pretty good. It was pretty lively, W Bills. It's the only football team that I care about because Josh Allen carried my fantasy team. So go Bills. I'm very happy about that. I hope there's not a lot of Ravens fans in the comments, but yeah, I'm very happy about the Bills. Canucks dropping a win over the Oilers. Surprising. Again, it's made my week quite fantastical. See, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes you got to look for some external factors to bring happiness to yourself. It's as Iro said, it's always best to believe in oneself, but a little help from others can go a long way. Sometimes you just need a little bit of that extra external push to put you in a good mood. Look around. If you're having a bad day, look around and look for things that can make you happy. Maybe internally there's not a lot of good things happening today, which I doubt because there's always good things to be found. But sometimes that little external push can put you in that right mood to be more, I want to say receptive to those kinds of things, to the really good internal things that you haven't really put your finger on or you haven't really put a lot of thought to. So look around. There's a lot of beautiful things in the exterior that we don't seem to recognize because we get too caught up in our own interior.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good point. Now, to segue in, let me ask you this. How do you define self-compassion? I'd say it's a very self-explanatory topic.
Yeah, I think, again, it's in the name, self-compassion, feeling compassion for yourself. There's one actually interesting thing. One of my profs talked about it in one of my classes. Really stupid class, but, I thought it was kind of interesting what she said. She was talking about the difference between empathy versus compassion. So she described the analogy using a person with a boulder on their back. So imagine you're walking down the street and you see this person carrying a massive boulder. And they're just hunched over. They're cracking under the pressure. And you walk up to them and you're like, damn, man, I really feel for you. I can imagine how heavy that boulder is. And you keep walking. That's empathy. Compassion is to walk up and say, regardless of how you feel, I'm going to help this person out with the boulder. So I think that self-compassion is different from self-empathy in the sense that a lot of the times we take the time to evaluate our own issues, but we don't take the steps to helping ourselves heal from them. So sometimes we reflect on it. We're like, oh yeah, okay, this is messed up about me. But you didn't really do things to address that issue, to fix it, to take that boulder off your back, to make you feel better about yourself. You didn't really do those things. So I think that self-compassion comes with two parts, identification and implementation. So identification is to find your problem, which is the more empathy part. But the real self-compassion part is to actually help yourself, to implement some new change, some form of process or system that's actually going to make you feel better in the long term.
Yeah, I think that's a very good analogy to use for it. My personal definition, the way that I would describe it, is self-compassion is kindness and understanding to oneself during difficult times or during your own struggles. And I like to highlight the during your own struggles or difficult times part, because I think on a day-to-day basis, the average person is pretty good at loving themselves. You're going into work, you're fine. But on those days where your boss gets mad at you for something, or you make a terrible mistake, or you get into a car accident, some sort of struggle occurs in your life, that's when you become your biggest hater. The second something goes down, you get into that car accident, the taxi drive home when your car is completely totaled, all you're thinking to yourself is, man, I'm such an idiot. Everything you say to yourself in that moment is so negative, when at the end of the day, all you needed in that moment was some love and compassion from yourself. Right? Being negative in that already negative moment is not helping you, but it's just what we tend to do naturally, because we regret, because we feel anger or sadness about the mistake we made. So in those moments of struggle and difficulty, you got to remember that. And there's one case I think about very, very, very predominantly these days. In fact, I literally just saw a video about this as well. It's about JT Miller on the Canucks. And for those of you that don't speak hockey, JT Miller is a fantastic player on the Vancouver Canucks. He's an assistant captain. He's great. Scores a lot of goals, has a lot of assists. He's the heart behind the team. In fact, he is such a critical part about the team that our fans chant his name almost every time he scores. JT Miller, pa, 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 pa. He's a critical piece of the team, and yet in recent times, he's been through a slump. He's going through some kind of personal issue. In fact, he took, I believe, 9 or 11 games off to just spend time on his own away from hockey, going through something. And yet I feel that at the end of all of that, he hasn't given himself the love and compassion, the understanding to come back to hockey and just say, it's okay that I faltered. I need to just keep moving forward and being better. I think in recent games, he's been doing slightly better, for sure. Like last game, his interview was nice. But for the most part, he's been in a slump. Same thing with Elias Pettersson, right? Both of them have had serious issues. So for them to just look at each other and be like, dude, we just got to love ourselves and just play our best hockey and forget about all this extra stuff that came along, that's the most important part. So I'd say if you can implement that into your life, you'll be a much stronger individual.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the question is, like, how much do we really know about
That's true.
JT
That
Miller,
is
Elias
true.
Pettersson? But obviously, I completely agree with the point. And to connect it to my life, right, I've definitely told this story about how my university life goes. And I guess there's more updates given the fact that semester 2 has started. But in semester 1, as I said at the beginning, I did not care about university. I didn't put the effort in. I didn't start with my best foot forward. You know, I stumbled a lot. I didn't care. I walked. I didn't run. And eventually I came to the realization, like, damn, this actually matters and I should really be trying my best. And then semester 2 rolled around. I've got my Google Calendar set up. I'm doing all my assignments on time. I have been acing all of my quizzes so far. Like, and this is not me bragging. I hope that it doesn't come across that way. But it's just to illustrate that I took the time to self-reflect on what I was messing up. And I said, hey, man, it's okay that we messed up, but it's time to switch it moving forward. And the other thing is that I'm not beating myself up over the fact that people have a semester lead on me. There's people that are in clubs that I could have been in. There are people doing case competitions I could have been doing. There's people getting jobs that I could have been doing. People going to events that I could have been going to. But I don't sit here and say, God damn it, past you, why didn't you go to those things? Instead, I say, hey, future you, I'm going to make you proud. Future you, I'm going to do every single one that I can. Because talking to the past version of you in that kind of a way is like talking to a brick wall. It's never going to change. It's not going to do anything. If anything, it just makes your time worse. But you don't make the situation better. I think that if you take into account the bad things that have happened and you really focus in on them and just say, hey, man, it's time to move on. It's time to take the next step. That's the best way to move forward. Instead of just sitting here beating yourself up about it as if that's going to make any difference, it isn't. It genuinely isn't. Now, there's a difference between using it and staying hung up on it. I think that the difference lies in the way you view it. If you view it as, I did that and I never want to do that again. It disgusts me so much that I did that I never want to do it again. That's motivation. If you dissociate yourself with the event, that is motivation. But if you associate yourself with it, that's like self-harm is the best way for me to put it, right? Because in one case, you're going, all right, this is the event. I'm going to, throw this into the fire and use it to stoke my, engine of heart. In the other one, I'm going to throw myself along with this fuel into the fire together, and we're all going to burn to eternity, right? That's where the difference lies. So use your bad memories, your bad moments to stoke that fire in your heart.
And just push you to be a better person.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that another thing is, at the end of the day, I'd say the most important word in self-compassion is self. Right? It's something you give to yourself. We talk about it all the time, how you seek a lot from other people when in reality, you just need to give that love to yourself, that attention. And one thing I'll say is, man, the entire world around you lies, and they make up stories, and they'll do a lot of things to cause beef in this world to get a story. And I'm bringing this up because I just realized how true it was, especially today, because one of the reasons why those two players I mentioned before, JT Miller and Elias Pettersson, have not been playing as good as they normally do is because the media constantly has been running this story saying JT Miller and Pettersson have beef. They don't like each other. They don't like playing with each other. At the end of the day, how true is this? I don't know. But I think that from what you hear from them after interviews, they're sick and tired of people just being like, not even talking about the game. They're not even asking him about the performance of the team. They just say, how are things looking between you and PD? It's just annoying, right? So think about this. Other people will ask you questions like that. Other people will egg you on. If you have to deal with all those things, imagine how bad your life is going to be if you can't even be chill with yourself.
Yeah.
If you're asking yourself those questions, if you're being annoying to yourself, how on earth are you going to deal with all this extra stuff that people are going to throw at you? Life is already full of challenges and obstacles. Don't make yourself one of those obstacles. Don't make your own mind a nagging presence that ruins your day by asking the wrong question.
Absolutely. I'm trying to remember who said it, and I can't remember, sadly. But the quote was, the person you spend the most time with in your life is yourself. Make sure that you love that person, right? People always say, you're the product of the 5 people around you, but who is around you the most? Yourself. So at the end of the day, you're the product of yourself. Think about that. You need whatever you're putting out there is what you're putting almost like into yourself, if that makes sense. What you're projecting out is just a reflection of what's within, simply. So if you're constantly on a negative thought process, how can you expect yourself to see anything any differently? And another thing that a lot of people, I guess, I heard the quote is, if nothing changes, nothing changes, right? It's very simple, and it's so, I don't want to say overused because I think it's a great quote, but it's very
Saturated.
Sure, saturated. There you go. Overused?
Overused is probably the accurate term for it.
Right? That's what I'm trying to
Because
say.
overused doesn't mean it's not meaningful.
It just means that it's used a lot. That's
Exactly.
it,
That's quite literally the definition of the
yeah,
word.
so overused. I don't know why I struggled so hard to find that, but I think that we get so caught up in our own ways because it's like Arnold said. He was talking about, Logan Paul asked him, why do you work out? He's like, well, why do I eat breakfast? I ate breakfast yesterday. I ate breakfast 10 years ago, right? I worked out yesterday. I worked out 10 years ago, so I'm going to work out today. If you keep yourself in your ways of thinking, okay, I lived my life the same way yesterday. I lived my life the same way 10 years ago. I'm going to live my life the same way today. You don't give yourself the opportunity to change. And I'm not saying Arnold's wrong, because at the end of the day, going to the gym, he's never sad, right? This guy smiles about doing it every day. But if you're constantly going through your day and you're not happy, you don't look at yourself with a smile, you don't look at the world around you with color, you don't see, the sunshine, you don't see the flowers, you don't smile at all, how can you expect yourself to be happy moving forward? How can you expect yourself to sit here and actually make meaningful change? Or sorry, I guess not like that, but you should be able to make meaningful change. Things aren't the way you want them right now, so why not take that step forward? Why not choose to try and see the world in a different light? If you aren't seeing something good right now, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It means you're not looking for it. Or rather, that you don't deserve it. And I know that sounds interesting, right? The way I'll break it down is almost like a religion-based thing. You know, people say that when you ask God for patience, he gives you an opportunity to be patient. When you ask God for love, he gives you the opportunity to show love. And I don't believe fully in like God or religion or anything, but I think that things are best obtained through a challenge or an actual meaningful progress. Meaning that if you find a reason to genuinely be happy, it makes it that much easier. Meaning it's easy for you to sit here and be like, yeah, just wake up and smile, right? Just wake up and be happy. But that doesn't work for a lot of people because they're so set in a negative mindset, right? They don't wake up and look around and see happy things because everything they've built around them is sad. So how do you make that happy is by making a change, right? Look for something different that'll actually make you happy, because I think that once you help out with those external factors in changing them, it'll be a bigger impact on your inner self. The way I see it is that there's two factors, right? Internal, external, and they both heavily influence each other. If you can't make one work on the other, but never work on neither. You know what I mean? Either work on one, both, but never neither.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's a relatively good way to put it. Now, I don't think that this is really going to come as much of a surprise. I think that the segment after this is probably going to be the best segment here and the most information dense. But one thing, obviously, we do have to discuss is some of the benefits of self-compassion. I don't think it needs much explanation, but at the end of the day, lay them out. What do you think are some of the benefits of self-compassion?
I think obviously we talked about the idea of like genuinely you're just a happier person. Like that's the overarching thing, is that you're going to smile more, you're going to enjoy your life more. But more importantly, you're going to be able to live with yourself and believe in yourself. I think that once you look at yourself in a more positive lens, you'll be like, for example, let's take the workplace. If you're working in the workplace and you like, damn, I suck, I hate myself, I'm probably terrible at this job, you're never going to look for a promotion, you're never going to want to talk to your boss, you're never going to want to raise, you're never going to want anything. But if you look at yourself like, hey man, maybe I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it. I'm a good person. I've got these good qualities. I can be better. I'm going to take steps to be better. Now you're looking at yourself in the sense of, I could be that guy that gets the promotion. I could be the guy that gets the raise. Now that's just one example in your life, but I think it applies across the board to literally anything. If you really want to, or one of the main benefits, I guess, of self-compassion then is that it is what drives achievement. Because you see yourself in a better light. You see yourself as more capable. And I think if you can see yourself better, you will become better.
That's the perfect way to put it. I don't know why I couldn't formulate these thoughts into an idea and coherent speech earlier. But that's what I guess I'm hoping that JT Miller is thinking about. Like, I keep
really
going
on
back
the
to
JT
this.
Miller thing.
I'm on the JT Miller train.
Is,
And maybe
yeah.
it's because the Canucks play tonight.
They do play tonight.
Great.
Okay, listen. I mean, if the Canucks lose to the Buffalo Sabres, I might end it all. But
It's okay. I have faith in my GOAT JT Miller hat trick coming right up.
that would be a crazy prediction.
For the record, I would just like to say, it's what, Tuesday the 21st?
Yeah.
Tuesday the 21st, we play the Sabres. If JT Miller scores a hat trick, I might be the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Okay? But anyways,
Fair enough.
more
I agree
importantly, if he's thinking those thoughts of, I can do this,
yeah.
I can do this, I'm me, then he will succeed.
I'm sorry.
But
I just find it really funny. We keep, going back to that.
I don't know.
I respect it. I respect it. I rock with the JT Miller analogy.
it's occupying my mind. I can't explain it, man. Like,
fair enough. Yeah. I
let me. Damn. Let me.
I ain't
let
got
me
a problem
speak,
with
man.
it. It's not a
Damn.
problem. Okay, sorry. My
God.
bad. Go ahead.
A brother can't speak.
All right.
At least I'm not bad as somebody we know with LeBron James.
You guys will.
You
learn.
know who
you
you
know
are.
who
You
you
know
are.
who you are.
Actually, his attention span's probably cooked by now. I don't think he's playing.
Yeah, he won't make it this far.
Yeah, but it's okay.
Damn, this is just a full-on grill session of him.
No,
huh?
no, that's okay. He'll come on the podcast someday. You guys
Yeah,
will meet him
for sure.
But
Well, there's a lot of people who glaze LeBron like crazy these days.
Okay, listen, I get the LeBron glaze to a point, like, oh, he's like, the greatest of all time, but like, hold on now. Like, what are we doing?
What are we saying?
Like, it gets to a point, right, where it's like, what are we doing? Like, listen, I would understand if it was Wayne Gretzky, because, he's the great one. I'm just putting that out there. I think that Wayne Gretzky is a better GOAT than LeBron, and I don't care what anybody says. Yep. I'll admit that I am slightly biased being a hockey person, but he is called the Great One for a reason. Mm-hmm. He is called the Great One, and I believe that Gretzky is a better GOAT than LeBron. But in any case, okay, I don't understand the crazy LeBron glaze.
Yeah.
But I think that you can't make sense of the things on the internet nowadays.
No.
Oh my God. I mean, I guess, we've talked about this, the idea of the brain rot stuff. It gets to a point. I'm talking with my friends, and, we're just going brain rot for brain rot at this point. Talking about random things that, our sentences aren't even coherent anymore. It's just, we just start saying random stuff. And it all just, mushes together. And somehow it's like we understand it, but it's like we spent 30 minutes talking about nothing. We said no words that were actually coherent sentences. They were just memes back and forth. I think that we've come to such a crazy culture, though.
Yeah, you know what made me realize that today?
Yeah.
Somebody asked me for my YouTube channel, right? Slightly older than me. And I showed them the last video. And he clicks on it, and he's reading the title. He's like, the first sentence makes sense. The second title I wrote was Crazy Beef with the Homies. He read that and was like, what the hell does that even mean? I was like,
that's crazy.
Because he didn't know that, beef is a term for, fighting, I guess.
I wonder where did that come from?
I have no idea.
Really, I wonder who, made that up. Because, what does beef actually have to do with, anger?
It's a great question. I have no idea.
That's really interesting to me. How, as a society and a culture, we just accept things as they come in, and we don't actually, question it that much. That's why I appreciate the older generations, because they keep us in check. They're like, what in the hell are you guys talking about? Who was like, oh, cap, that's lying. What are we talking about? What does that actually have to do with it? Right?
That's a great question.
So,
that is a great question.
There's so many terms that we just all synonymously, we're just like, yeah, that's good. That's good. But you know what? Let's add that to the word bank. But, hold on now. Doesn't even make sense.
I have a feeling most of these have some sort of origin and we have no idea about them, but they're so weird. It just makes no sense. Definitely beef is up there. Cap or no cap is up there. What's another slang term that people use nowadays that just makes zero sense?
I would have said fire or lit, but it kind of makes sense, I guess. Actually, no, it doesn't. It really doesn't. Fire and lit don't make sense. You could say, oh, that's heat. You're just adding another slang term to prove a slang term.
Yeah.
And that's you're taking the integral, you're taking the derivative of a slang term to make a new slang term. But if we integrate it, we're just getting to another slang term. So we got to integrate again to get to the base form. What's the integral of heat? We'll never know. I'll tell you what. The derivative of heat is fire. The derivative of fire is lit. The integral of lit is fire. Integral of fire is heat. But what is the integral of heat?
I'm willing to bet he just broke all of your brains. He broke my brain.
You guys get it.
I'm a university student.
Do you guys not get it? Dude, this is simple calculus. Come on now.
I don't study calculus. What do you think I am?
Okay, well, in any case, you know what? I think that you could apply this principle to your life.
What?
Okay, hear me out now. Stay with me. Stay with me, all right? The idea is, we always accept things because everybody's doing it, but why not question it a little bit? I think it would be a fun activity. Genuinely sit down and be like, what are things that I do that I've never really thought about why I do them? Right? Why do you do so many of the things that you do? And it's or why do you think the way that you do? Why do you act the way that you do? And you know what? This was actually a really cool concept. This is a little bit of a side tangent for you guys, but I thought it was really cool. Is in one of my classes, the class that we talked about empathy and compassion, one thing my teacher brought up was core values, right? Who are we at our core? And she went around, asking all these people oh, what do you value in yourself? What are your core values? People were like, oh, honesty, right? She actually walked up to me and asked me, and I said, fairness. I think that being fair in any scenario is important, making sure that everybody has an equal outcome as to the best of my abilities, right? To make sure that I benefit equally as another person in any form of a deal or action, right? But a lot of people are like, honesty, equality, stuff like that. And then she posed the question. She's like, okay, your friend comes up to you and you guys both work for the same boss, but your friend's constantly being late. but she's got a bit of an issue at home that she can't talk about. She doesn't want the boss to know. Now the boss comes to you and says, hey, this person's, always late. Do you know what's up with them? What do you say? And everybody said, obviously, I would lie to the boss. Some people, actually, you know what? It was very interesting to me. Some people said they wouldn't. And I found that interesting. I found it very interesting because I think that people don't realize that what you identify as your core values oftentimes are not your core values. I think that there's an underlying aspect of who you are that you never know until you're in a critical scenario. So remember when you were talking about self-compassion is really important in those scenarios when you're hurting or you're really down in the dumps and stuff like that. You just messed up. I think that the reason so many people feel that way in those situations is because they have an underlying layer of negativity in their lives that they never really address. It's like they built this house of personality on a foundation of negativity. So when something breaks down in that house, the foundation is revealed and all you see are the negative aspects. So sometimes you have to take a look back and break down that foundation and create a new one based on positivity. The reason why I'd say, and it's not to boast, but I think in my life, I oftentimes view my harder situations now with more positivity is because of that. Because I've tried to build my foundation of life on the principle of positivity. Instead of just continuing to build where I am and just adding, wood pieces of positivity, I'm laying that cement down again.
Yeah, right? The difference is you went in there with a jackhammer, removed
Exactly.
all the excess garbage of negativity that used to be your foundation in life. You removed all that and laid a new foundation surrounding positivity, self-compassion, and care.
Precisely. And I think that the one issue a lot of people need to address is the fact that you can't get rid of it all. That's reality. Sometimes we're going to feel negative. That's a part of life. But it's better to work on it than to leave it. Don't just keep building. If you build this skyscraper of your life on a garbage foundation, at some point it's bound to fall. Your foundation, your fundamentals, who you are at the lowest level, that's what's the most important about all of your character. Those little cherries you put on top, those little extra, glass rooms that you're putting up your building, those aren't important. What's important is that foundation, that base, because once everything goes wrong, that's all that's left. And I can assure you things will go wrong. I can assure you that at some point in your life, everything is going to feel like it's going wrong. It's going to feel like the Murphy effect or Murphy's Law is happening. You know Murphy's Law, right?
Anything that can go wrong will go wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to feel at times. At times you're going to be like, Lord, you have given me everything that could possibly happen. There's no way my situation could get worse, and then it gets worse somehow. That's going to happen. So why not be prepared for it? Why not start breaking that foundation now and rebuilding it better?
That's true. That is true. Honestly, I don't really think that there's any other good way to put it. That is pretty much how you sum it up. Now, I don't even know how did we get here?
I don't know.
We went on a crazy
that
train.
Was crazy.
It was all the way around.
That's life.
That is life. That really is. Sometimes things don't go according to plan. I'd say most of the time things don't go according to plan. Anyways, now it's time for the fun part of the show. The fun part where we dissect one of the greatest myths about self-compassion. I labeled this myth as, does self-compassion make you lazy?
Mm-hmm.
That's the question that I'm
this is very interesting because the way I thought we were going into this episode, I thought this was going to be a big debate between you and I. Because I think that you are much more on the it breeds laziness side of the spectrum, and I'm more on it increases productivity. I don't want to say increases productivity because I think there are elements to it that makes it lazy. But I thought that's how we were going into this. I really thought that's how it would go. So it's very interesting that we did wind up here, but in a very different sense.
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the greatest preconceived notions about self-compassion. People think that if you're not hating yourself, saying, I suck, I got to get better, I need to do this, I'm the worst person here, I'm weak, saying all these things to myself is the only way I'm going to motivate myself to be better. For some people, it might be. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that my way is the only way. Life is subjective, man. You have your own experiences. It's not like your parents raised me or whatever background you came from, I came from. No. There is so much subjective content in life. Don't sit here and think that what I say is 100% true. But what I can tell you is there are studies, there's definitive proof, there's evidence that shows the difference between people who love themselves and take care of themselves outside of their work and those who only focus on the task at hand. Now, I think that the best place where this comes into play is the financial sector. Without a doubt, in my opinion, that's one of the greatest places because it's not just about the way you talk to yourself. It's just about how you treat yourself, how you live your life. It's an overarching principle of self-compassion. There was a study done by a Harvard professor, okay? Now, this is for all the people out there. Listen up. If you think that self-compassion makes you lazy, I'm about to change your life. There was a Harvard Business School professor by the name of Leslie Perlow, and she went to the Boston Consulting Group, one of the largest consulting firms in America. And when she went there, she asked for a certain division and said, can I run some experiments on your team that may help boost your productivity? Although they were reluctant, they eventually said yes. So she goes in, meets all the people, and says, all right, here's what I'm proposing. Each week, every team member is going to take one day where they disconnect from everything, where they unplug. No email, no calls, no nothing. You walk away from the office without a single ability to be contacted by anyone there. Immediately, everyone thought this was an absurd concept because this is a world where mergers and acquisitions take place. There's always going to be new investments. Stocks are going down. You need to capitalize on those moments. And clients may call you and say, hey, what do I do? And you need to be there to answer the phone. Even though they thought they'd lose clients, they'd lose business, everything would fall apart, what actually happened? Those employees took that day to themselves, showed themselves and their families some love and compassion, and came back the next day with more drive to work, with more passion towards what they're doing. And the craziest thing is, the most important thing to this consulting firm at the end of the day is not just about their employees' well-being. It's more so about their clients. What results do they achieve for their clients? Giving an employee that rest day improved client results. And that was the most important thing from this study. It's that self-compassion and not being so hard on yourself and letting yourself take a break every once in a while significantly improves your ability to do your job, to help the people around you, and to live a happier life. Because those employees are way happier now. They get a day off to spend with their family, and on top of that, they do their job better. To me, that's a win-win situation, and that's why self-compassion does not equate to laziness.
You know what's really interesting? It's actually a principle in economics. It means it's like I believe it's diminished work capacity. It's where the more you work, the less work you do, right? So suppose that you work for, like, this is the thing with, like, studying, for example. If you study for 5 hours, it's extremely effective. You get a lot of studying done. You study for 6, it's like a curve that goes like this, right? So within the first hour you study, your knowledge goes up like this. The second hour like this, third hour like this, fourth hour like this, fifth hour like this, sixth, seventh, I feel like you guys can't see, but the curve goes like this. Meaning as time goes on and you study for more and more hours, the amount that you are actually learning decreases marginally, right? So like from the amount you learn from 1 to 2 is more than you learn from 2 to 3, more than you learn from 3 to 4, more than you learn from 3 to 4 to 5, and so on, so on. So it makes sense there. The idea is that these guys are working so many hours that that little break that they're taking off isn't really affecting that much because marginally it's not that much more work. So the question is, how much time are you really wasting thinking you're being productive? One thing a lot of people get caught up in is the idea that planning and thinking are the same as actual production. Not to say that planning and thinking aren't important, but you haven't achieved truly until you've actually taken an action. You can say you have the idea, but take entrepreneurship, for example. Suppose that you have an idea for the next crazy invention, but you never do it and somebody does it in the next year before you ever got to do it. Are you really going to sue that guy and be like, hey, man, I thought about it. I thought about it way back when. I didn't get to do anything, but I thought about it. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because you didn't execute on it. And that person who's going to, take that idea and go is the future you who didn't give himself a shot. So you don't want to be indebted to that guy, right? So while you're here, don't sit here on ideas and expect everything to go right. Instead, take action and understand that action means breaks as well. You deserve leisure time. You deserve to be chill at some points. You don't need to be working 24/7 because if you are, you aren't working effectively. You may get a lot of stuff done in one day of working that hard, but by day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, you're going to notice that you're just going to start falling off a cliff. And I can't tell you guys how much better you will do when you work happy than when you work sad. Take, for example, midterm and final season. All of us are studying with so much stress, like, oh my God, I have finals, I have midterms, I need to lock in, I need to be studying, 8 hours a day. And it is miserable. I can tell you that my studying was not effective. I barely remembered anything. But I study now. Right after a lecture, I'm in a good mood. I remember all the material. I go and I do all the practice questions. I do the extra practice questions, and I'm like, damn, this all makes sense. I understand it now. But see how I'm doing it in a positive state of mind. And that positive state of mind makes it that much easier to understand. But when you're sat there, crunch time, and you're just trying to make sense of everything, it's not going to work because your mind isn't primed for new information. It's instead built its own narrative of like, I'm cooked, I might as well just give up because you've sown the seed of doubt in your own head. So that internal thought process, the way you see the task that you're doing is so crucial because it's going to heavily impact the outcome that you're going to get.
Mm-hmm. And I think that school is one of those places where a lot of people like to talk about how effective spending time studying is. Let me tell you, I guarantee you we just lost a lot of people because people were probably thinking they're just endorsing laziness. Regardless of what I say, some of you are going to believe that. But let me tell you, to those of you out there who are university students, high school students, if you're studying hard these days because you have exams, let me tell you something. There was a study conducted on the best achieving students at Harvard, the people with the highest GPAs, the people who are really, really going places. If you look at the top 5 people, their amount of time spent studying is less than the people below them.
Really?
Less. They
Really?
study less time than the people who achieve slightly lower GPAs than them. Why is that? It's because time spent is not the only thing valuable in this equation of output. The truth is, output is equivalent to, I've said this like 5 times in the past week, to 5 different people. Output is equal to time spent doing the activity multiplied by intensity of focus. And that is one of the critical equations you will learn if you read that book, Deep Work by Cal Newport. Absolutely phenomenal book. I'm not even done yet, but I know that book is revolutionary and it is changing my life in ways you can't imagine. If you want to become an academic weapon, you need to focus on intensity and less on time because the more you chain yourself to this desk, the more you're going to hate studying. Let me tell you, I'm a guy who is in a very study-intensive major. Biochemistry is not something you can just learn in an instant or you can reason while you're sitting there on a test. You either know it or you don't. It's that simple. It's black and white. Typically, time spent correlates to knowledge. But if you're not focused, it's completely useless. I can sit there for 10 hours and not learn a single thing because all I'm doing is I'm reading through the notes and then I'll check my email or I'll check my phone. That's a complete waste of time, okay? Just take some time to cut out all the distractions, focus on that one thing. And this is actually a really good form of self-love right there. Let's be honest, man. You are the type of person who's going to sit there and cram for 10 hours before your exam, and then you're going to hate yourself because you didn't study enough. I already know you're going to do that because that's what I do.
See, when I tell you that moment of self-reflection when you realize I'm cooked, and you're just like, I hate myself.
Why didn't I study?
Why didn't I study? Why didn't I do everything? Don't give yourself the chance to live with regret, man. That's the thing. That's like number one way to avoid regret is don't have regret.
Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, like, I'll be completely honest. I'm a serial procrastinator when it comes to studying. I don't like studying until the last week before my exam, which is really bad for university. You should be studying all the time, just reviewing material because it's much easier to do and you'll score higher marks. But after reading this book and after reviewing my previous semester, I'm like, okay, I know what I need to change now. Today, right after class, I went and sat in the silent part of the library and did nothing but read my psych notes and take notes on it and say, okay, I understand this. I got to work on this. Sat there for an hour, no problem, in the most deeply focused state I've ever been in, and then took a quiz on it and did great. That normally doesn't happen. Why did it happen? It's because I showed myself the love and compassion of not cramming right before an exam. Instead, sit here, take some time, and do things the right way, man. The other thing is, like I was saying, about whether self-compassion makes you lazy. There's a lot of people who follow David Goggins, but also don't understand the truth about him. He's very, very hard on himself. Very hard. He's a guy who pushes himself to the extremes. Okay? That's a fact. But at the same time, if you ask him, are you happy with your life? Joe Rogan actually asked him this question. I think it's a bit more, worded differently. But Joe Rogan once asked him, are you happy? And he said, a lot of people see me with this straight face, constantly swearing and running around like a crazy person. But at the end of the day, doing all this, it has given me a sense of achievement and accomplishment. I'm happy with how it is. That works for him, screaming those swear words, listening to people's hate comments, that works for him. And for some of you, it might work too. But not everyone, man.
You know what's crazy is there's a similar story to that in Andrew Tate. There's a video of him online saying, I say all these things online, but one thing I want you guys to know is that, and I do this very seriously, is I enjoy every day of my life. I genuinely enjoy every day of my life. And if you guys are sitting here and telling me you're going to let Andrew Tate enjoy his life more than you, lock in. Enjoy your life, man. If a guy who's getting hated on by half of the earth can still smile in the morning, then you should be able to as well.
I'd honestly argue it's probably more than half.
Yeah, probably. Genuinely, probably. But at the end of the day, you should be able to smile as well. If somebody in his position can, then you definitely can as well. And the principle is so simple because I think deep down we all do. We all genuinely love ourselves for who we really are. And oftentimes I would say that if you really want to know who you are, remember who you were when you were a kid. Because man, though that person is it's a different feeling to remember that. And like I think about my childhood. See, I can't even stop smiling right now because of how happy I am about how my childhood went. And to think about the friends I had and how I never thought things the same way that I see them now. For example, one of the big things that we talked about was how we never knew about racism when we were kids. And this is coming from two brown kids who played with two Asian kids and two white kids. That was our little friend group for playing around in the neighborhood. And, I would always go over to their house. I would always eat their food. I would always, see their culture, but I never saw them as any different as us. We still invited each other to each other's birthday parties or other parties even. For any other house gatherings, we would always invite them over. They were welcome to come over whenever. Why was that? It was because we, there's something that transcends that. There's something that transcends that division that we have. Mm-hmm. And it's the idea that we don't have preconceived notions. When we're kids, we don't have the ability to have that because we haven't lived long enough to. But as we get older, we build these, ideas in our heads, and it ruins us because not only does it deteriorate the relationships we have with everybody else, but also the one we have with ourselves. Because we don't really see ourselves for who we are. We see ourselves for who we want to be to everybody else. But at the end of the day, if you can look back on your childhood and remember the kind of person that you may have been, I sit back and I remember a happy-go-lucky kid who would run around playing with sticks with his friends, pretending they were swords, or riding bikes around in circles pretending we were going places, or building ramps out of plywood, putting our engineering minds to use, making stupid games like the Stupid Virus in our basement.
It was an actual game we played as kids.
Making up Sasketball, enjoying all these times as kids because that's who we were. We were imaginative. We were creative. We cared about each other. We didn't have the issue of diversity. We didn't think about it that way. We just saw each other for people. See yourself as a person. You're not a flaw, a statistic, a persona. You're you. You're just another person who was put on this earth to smile, to find reasons to smile, and to make other people smile.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great way to put it, man. I could honestly do a whole episode about why we need to be more like our childhood selves,
Yeah.
but that's a conversation for another day. The last couple of things I want to get into, one part is a refutation. Do you know what a refutation is?
No.
A refutation is something you typically include in a academic paper, something that you say is an issue with whatever you're proposing.
Refuting. Yeah. that
Exactly,
makes sense.
right? That's why it's called a refutation. And it's interesting because I always didn't like the refutation. I haven't written any, academically reviewed papers yet. But one day when I do write it, I've begun to understand the critical aspect of this and why it's so important. But I was thinking about the refutation on self-compassion. And obviously it's mainly the laziness component of it. But some people take self-compassion as a reason to do nothing. They take it as a reason to sit in bed and watch TikTok all day. They take it as a reason to eat junk food all day because it makes them happy. Just because you love yourself does not mean that you should endorse laziness or any of those 7 sins. At the end of the day, you should be the best version of yourself because fulfillment can only be achieved through goals and achievement. You need to accomplish things to feel happiness in life. Well, that's a bad way to phrase it. But I'd say at the end of the road, when you look back on your journey, seeing the checkpoints you crossed off, that checklist of, hey, I did that, that will make you very happy in the long term.
Just to quickly toss one in there is I like that you use the checkpoint analogy because people always talk about, it's the journey, not the destination. But if the journey is disconnected, it doesn't have meaning, right? But the connection between those checkpoints is what gives it its value because it illustrates a picture, a story, the story about you. But yes, continue. Sorry.
Exactly, 100%. That's a great way to put it. But my point is, you can't just sit here and do nothing, right? I know some people who do that, and I've seen their lives and how upset they are typically. In fact, one of my friends was in a class, and he had this random person talk to him, and just the story they told about what they do in their free time, it was almost bone-chilling to hear that as a daily routine for somebody. It's no wonder a lot of people are depressed these days. It's no wonder a lot of people are out of shape. It's because everyone wants to sit here with these distractions and call it self-love. In fact, I'd say that is the opposite of self-love. That is self-harm right there.
Yeah.
Scrolling all day, eating junk food all day, and not doing anything with your life is a form of self-harm. Stop endorsing that. We got to go out there. Yes, love yourself and be positive, but go out there and be the best version of yourself. Be healthy. Endorse good habits. Read. Meditate. Find meaning in life.
Absolutely. That got very harsh very quickly. I'll put that out there. But the one reason is think about somebody you love, like somebody you really love. Somebody else, like not yourself, right? Think about somebody else that you really love. How far would you go for that person? Ask yourself genuinely, you love this person. How far are you willing to go? What would you do for this person? And a lot of guys, you'll see them online talking about I would take her to the nicest places. I would show her the best version of myself. I would give her all these things. Why don't you show yourself that same love? If you had somebody you cared about, would you tell them, hey, let's eat McDonald's for our dates? Let's just eat Big Macs and drink milkshakes. Let's not talk to each other. Let's not address our problems. Let's not try to be better. Would you say that to somebody you're in a loving relationship with? Would you say, let's just keep going down this garbage path and who cares where we end up? Let's not make any steps to move forward. Let's not make any steps to change. Who cares about the future? Is that something you'd say to somebody you love? Because if that's something you wouldn't say to your partner, your parents, your sibling, your grandmother, then it shouldn't be something you'd say to yourself. Show yourself the same love you show to the people around you, because that is true love. When you find somebody that you truly love and you realize how far you're willing to go for that person, understand that that's how far you should be willing to go for yourself. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the very end of episode, 57? 57 of the Bright Horizons podcast. We truly appreciate everything. But as you guys know, y'all got to stick around for just one more second because it is time for Quote
Of
the
Week.
Hit 'em.
Quote of the week. Very simple today. Self-love is not vanity. It is sanity.
I
And
like
that is
the
a quote
rhyming.
by Katrina Mayer.
I would have said Dr. Seuss, but
Yeah, I mean, self-explanatory quote, but to those of you that don't get it, vanity, what does that mean? It's for show. It's for appearance. It's not really serving any purpose. But at the end of the day, self-love is not an option in life. Self-love is an integral part of the human consciousness about a happy life. It is a cornerstone of living a happy life. Without self-love, you will continue to beat yourself up in those moments of suffering and struggle. Those moments where you make a mistake. But you got to understand, you are only human. There's only so much you can be perfect at. You're going to make mistakes. In those moments, try to show yourself the same love and compassion you'd show somebody very close to you.
once again, thank you guys so much for sticking around to the very end of episode 57 of the Brighter Horizons podcast. Make sure to stay tuned because we will be throwing some stuff at you guys in the next episode. But truly, once again, we appreciate and love all of you guys for being such loyal viewers, watching our channel through and through. We truly appreciate all of the support that you guys have given us over this past, year of recording, over a year of recording. So truly, we appreciate that from the bottom of our hearts. But first and foremost, make sure that you go out there and show yourself the same love that you show to those around you, because Lord knows that you deserve it more than anybody else. Fight every day with a beautiful smile. Enjoy every possible second that you can of your day. Smile for no reason, smile for a reason, find a reason to smile. But make sure that you live a positive life, y'all. Peace out.